Hey guys, what's up? I just wanted to come on here because I am at a place in life where I just want to be fulfilled, happy, what is happy even, like trying to figure out myself and traumas and all these things and just like in this journey of like self masterization. Anyway, I've been doing lots of like research and reading and watching videos, and I'm constantly, every single day, I take time, and I'm grateful that I have the time to do that, to actually figure out what is important to like myself and also just for humanity in general, and talk a lot about relationships. Literally, the majority of the memes that I see are centered around relationships. Are one of the most important things that we'll do in our life, whether it be with our mom, dad, brothers, sibling, aunts, uncles, and especially our relationships with our boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives. Those relationships are literally going to make or break our life and change our life as adults, because those are the relationships that are going to last for the rest of our life. We have our childhood and then we have our adult life. And so these relationships are really important. And, they don't teach these in school, which I think they should. And I think if they don't teach them in school, we know they don't teach it in school. We need to be teaching our kids about relationships, and not just in a way of, oh, don't get with somebody who's mean to you, or don't this, or, it's kind of like they see us go through these things and then we tell them, oh, don't do that. So it's like, no, let's demolish that and let's start fresh and teach ourselves how to be in healthy relationships with people, healthy work environments with people. What does it look like to converse with somebody and sit back and just listen instead of talking over somebody or understanding somebody? I teach my kids, when they see certain things, or there's kids at school acting a certain type of way or treating them a certain way, I sit down with them and we have these conversations about like they didn't have anybody to teach them. So teaching compassion, teaching understanding, teaching like, stick up for yourself, all that stuff. That's kind of like the old school way. Like, seems to me like nobody wants to be compassionate anymore. Nobody wants to understand what that person's going through. They just want to, oh, well, you're doing that? Well, that's why I'm not going to talk to you ever again. And it's like, yes, set boundaries, but also we need to come from a place of like understanding and teaching our children, like, okay, maybe this happened, but that doesn't mean that person's a bad person. It just means that they're going through things, or maybe they weren't taught. So let's, as friends, try to like bring it back to basics and just be like, okay, teach your kids how to set boundaries, teach them right from wrong in general, because at the end of the day, there's going to be tons of people that we're around that think right and wrong are totally different than you think are right and wrong. And like, relationships are just so important. And that's why like I study it so much, and I try to figure out, why did the relationships in my life, whether it be parents, or whatever kind of relationship it was, what effect do they have on me currently and in the past, and triggers, trauma, PTSD, all these things that I've dealt with. How do we come from that broken down place to a place of, I understand and I have knowledge, and knowledge is power, and like there's a deeper meaning. And I think that's what we forget, is like, we're in this life to like go through the trials and the tests, and it seems like life is just a huge game, but it's like, it's really to teach you a lesson. Like, what is the lesson that we're going to get from this life? Like, what really is it? Because there's a deeper meaning and we have to get to it. And I think that we would all just do better, and I feel like I do better getting to understand these things and having knowledge on certain things and behaviors and personality types, my own trauma, maybe somebody else's trauma, learn about somebody else's trauma. Like, if you're in a relationship with somebody who has been through X, Y, and Z, then you, I feel, are responsible for understanding that, having the conversation with that person. And if that person still has like a little bit of a guard up, then maybe you need to do some research on yourself. Like, okay, why is this person triggered by this? Or why does this person act like this? And kind of get to the underlying thing so that you can have peace. It's all about you. At the end of the day, you can't control anybody else but yourself. And you're responsible for yourself, especially if you're an adult. Young adults too, you guys are coming into a place where you are going to be held responsible for your actions, things you say, things you do. And so if nobody taught you, you know, I'm even telling my kids, my 16-year-old, my 12-year-old, I told them the other day, I said, hey guys, I know that I've given you trauma, your dads have given you trauma, people in your life have given you trauma, but at the end of the day, you're old enough to jump on your phone and scroll. You're old enough to jump on your phone and scroll and look at all these things, and you are old enough to maybe start doing some inner work, because I want my kids to be woke people. I want my kids to be self-sufficient, good in relationships. You know, we all have those things we need to work on, but I think if we start from a young age, and I was researching this Dr. Caroline Leaf, she studied a book that she just did about healing your children. And so like helping them just to understand or doing certain things, like there's so much that can be done. And just my point is like some of this is jumbled, but anyways, it's just so much. But I think that we would all do better in life if we started working on self-mastery. What is it that we need to work on? What is it that we have trauma with? If it's something that you don't want to talk about, if it's something that's just like so deep rooted, then maybe that's the first thing that we should work on. And it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy to like uncover those things and work on them and figure out why and how. And I understand that it's difficult, but please know that that trauma will stay with you until you decide to take it upon yourself to fix whatever the issue is within yourself. It's going to stay with you for all your relationships, your parenting, your, you know, relationship with your parents, your relationship with your spouse. That trauma will not leave you until you decide to work on it. So I just think it's like super important that we get down to the nitty gritty of like who we are, who do we want to be, you know, set your boundaries with yourself, set your boundaries with people, work on those triggers, work on that PTSD, work on those issues that, you know, why do we keep following in the same cycle? And then you'll start to realize like, okay, that's why, because I have abandonment issues. That's why I'm in this toxic relationship and I can't leave, because my dad wasn't there. Maybe he was there, but he wasn't present. Or, you know, we've got so many different issues that we just don't even realize. Like, we need to forgive ourselves. We need to forgive people. We need to work on this stuff in our day-to-day life. Just like we eat every day, just like we go to work every day. It seems like there's no time, but there is. In the car, put a motivational speech on. Or better yet, not even motivational. Put on something that you need to, like, start with issue number 1. Start with, you know, things that you need to learn about yourself. We need to learn about ourselves. Like, I don't know about you, but I was in situations where I didn't even know myself. Like, when I came out of them, I didn't even know what I like to eat or what I like to do or any of that. And I didn't know who I was. And it's like, how do we get there? How do we get to a place where we're so just like broken down by somebody else, or in a place where we just forget our own value, or maybe we never knew our value to begin with? Maybe that's the problem, and that was the problem for me. And I'm not ashamed to say it, because at the end of the day, I've already done so much work on myself to get to this point. And so that's why I feel like right now is a good time for me to just talk about it, because I'm just like so passionate about self-healing, self-growth, self-love. Like, if we would have more of that, like, honestly, if we would have more of that, we can teach other people how to treat us just by being the example of the self-love that we have ourselves. Like, when you treat yourself a certain way and you love yourself a certain way, you don't let anybody treat you less than, period. And if you're letting somebody else treat you a certain type of way in an area, then that's probably indicative of an area that we need to work on. Like, but you know what you need. You know what you need to work on. And I'm just saying, get in there and start working on it. Start working on your kids. Guys, we give our kids trauma. And I'm not a perfect mom. I know that I've given my kids trauma. And I think the first step of that is just throwing it out there and saying yes. And so what can I do since I helped create the trauma? What can I do to help? I can learn and teach myself and help to take the trauma away. And like, medicine's not the answer. You know, sometimes counseling's not even the answer, because like what I realize about counseling is like a lot of counselors will talk to you, they'll let you speak, and then you kind of like go around in the circle with yourself, you know, telling them all your traumas, and they just listen to you, and they're good listeners. But sometimes they're not giving you like the brain food that you need. I mean, but we can do counseling, but sometimes even when you're in a session with your counselor, there's things that you don't want to talk about with your counselor because you still have that guard up. Like, you're always going to have this guard for those things that we just don't want to talk about. We want to just suppress. And so if you're a person who's like that, like with me, I'm pretty open, but I have done counseling in the past, and like there's just things I don't want to talk about. And so I figure I'm going to be the person that's going to advocate for myself, that's going to have to do it for myself, because if not, you know, maybe I'm not there yet where I can open up. And so there's tons of books, there's tons of resources on the internet, which everybody uses. We all have phones. And so let's use these resources for good instead of bad, and start this growth process and this healing process, because it didn't start overnight. It didn't take overnight. And so it's not going to be finished overnight. Like, we need to desire the change. We need to desire to be better for our children. They are the future. And I can't be a mom if I... Thank you. I can't be a good mom if I don't know what it is going on with me. I'm not going to be able to communicate with my kids. I'm not going to be able to listen to them. I'm not going to want to. I'm going to be frustrated at the fact that I can't, that I don't know how to, and just all these different things, you know, like there's just so much to unpack with the things that we can work on, and they can be worked on, like little changes every day, one day at a time, one step at a time, one moment at a time. Like, that's really the way, is like, just do what you can. But anyway, that's what I wanted to say today. I hope that everyone is doing well. I hope that you guys are on your little journey of self-discovery and, you know, working on these things one step at a time, one day at a time. I hope that God gives you guys the peace that surpasses all understanding, because sometimes that's all that's gotten me through, is just his peace, just asking him for his peace. I hope that you guys find a faith. I hope that you guys have faith in something other than yourself, because if there's one thing that I've learned in this life, is that I can't do it by myself. And I've been by myself a lot, raising my kids, doing things by myself. But it's my faith in God. It's my faith that there is something bigger. There is a bigger plan for my life. And maybe it's just right here having this conversation. I don't know. Maybe it is raising my kids, because I have so many of them. And I've been blessed where other people can't even get pregnant or can't bear children. And so, like, guys, I want to be a peaceful mother. I want to be a peaceful person. Our peace is so invaluable. Like, you don't understand what peace is until you finally feel it. And when you're a person who's been through trauma, like me, to find my peace took me years. And to find who I was took me years. And I just don't ever want to let anybody or anything or myself, you know, introspection, like, take it away and allow things to happen that would take my peace away. So we've just got to come to a place where, you know, understanding, introspection, self-mastery, you know, and also thinking about the future generations that we're responsible for, because they're going to be responsible for a whole nother generation. And I don't know about you, but I want my generations to be healthy, happy, whole. You know, I want them to be loving and kind human beings in a world that is just like, anyway, like in a world that is not just like totally on the up and up. So we have to desire these things, and we have to want them for our futures and for ourselves and for our future generations. Well, anyway, guys, I hope you guys got something from this video. This is just me sharing my thoughts. Love you guys. I hope it spoke to somebody at least, but for myself, it did help me just to release and talk about it out loud and get it out. So thanks, guys. Love you all. Have a great day. Bye.